Okay. Brandon Cobb,
Yes.
Joe Crittenden,
No.
Jody Fishinghawk,
No.
Meredith Fraley,
No.
Janelle Fulbright, no. Don Garvin,
Yes.
Chuck Hoskin Jr.,
Yes.
Tina Glory Jordan,
No.
Chris Soap,
Yes.
Curtis Snell,
Yes.
David Thornton,
No.
Kara Cowan Watts,
Yes.
Bill Anglin,
Yes.
Bill John Baker,
No.
Jack Baker,
Yes.
Harley Buzzard,
Yes.
Julia Coates.
Yes.
We have 10 yes and 7 no.
10 yes, 7 no, motion carries. Okay, under new business, we have a resolution from the nomination of Casey Ross Petrick as a member of the Cherokee Nation Education Corporation, and I understand she is here today. She is. Mr. Baker,
Make a motion she be approved.
second. Moved in second. Now, discussion. Melanie, did you have a comment?
Just to say, we're pleased to nominate Casey to this position. She's a former, well, and still does work for the Cherokee Nation, but also works for Oklahoma City University School of Law and heads up the Native American program there. Has been involved in our education office, our Washington, D.C. office, health and state legislative affairs, so she's a very competent individual. We think she'd be a great asset to the corporation. She's here to answer any questions you'd have.
Casey? Do you have any comments before we open up for questions?
No, just thank you all for taking time on your busy agenda today to accommodate this issue, and I'm happy to answer any questions anyone has.
Any questions, comments? Yes, Mr. Buzzard?
Yes, I'd hope that we all support Casey on this nomination. I've had an opportunity to work with Casey back in the roads program, and I can attest to what she's done for us in the DC office. It's opened some doors up there for us, so she's a smart lady, and she would certainly be an asset to our department.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Thank you for being here today. Was the weather conditions good in Oklahoma City?
They weren't too bad, so.
Okay, all in favor of this nomination signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Congratulations, Casey.
Thank you.
Second resolution is confirming the nomination of Tanya Roselle, but I understand that's, you've withdrawn that request.
Yes, Madam Speaker, we respectfully withdraw this at this time.
Okay, thank you. Item 2 is withdrawn. Item 3, it confirms the renomination of Foreman Ross to the Sequoia High School Board of Education.
And he is also here, Madam Speaker. This is a renomination to Sequoia High School Board. He's been serving for quite some time from Salina, as you know, and is here to answer any questions you might have.
Mr. Ross. Got a motion to approve? Second. Ms. Ross, you want to come forward?
Would you like to come forward? Do you have anything to say to the committee?
Mr. Ross, thanks for being here. Do you have any comments before?
No, I'm just glad to serve on a board. That's my second home there at Sequoia. And we're looking good. Everything's going smooth. I want to thank you all for the nomination.
Thank you for being here. Ms. Gloria Jordan, do you have a comment?
No, I just make, have we made the motion yet? I'd make the motion to approve it.
Okay. Do you have a second?
Oh, sir.
Moved in second, now discussion. Oh, you already made it, okay. Okay, keep up with everything. All right. Any other questions or comments? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Hey, we have a resolution confirming the nomination of Sam Hart as the Commissioner of the Tax Commission, and I understand he has a funeral at this time. He couldn't be here.
I make the motion that we approve this.
Second.
Moved in second. Melanie, you have any comments?
Just that Mr. Hart is a business owner, I think well known to many of you. He wants to serve the Cherokee Nation in some capacity, and so the principal chief saw fit to nominate him to the Tax Commission. We think he'd be a great asset to the Tax Commission.
Any questions or comments for Ms. Knight? Okay, all in favor of this nomination signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, item 5 is the resolution authorizing tribal officials to approve Indian preference applications. Mr. Baker?
Yes. This resolution, at present, Indian preference applications are used for verification of Indian preference for employment in the Bureau of Indian Affairs and Indian Health Service. And currently, the Cherokee Nation has to send those verifications to the BIA for approval. And this resolution allows the Cherokee Nation to do it themselves without having to take the extra time to go to the BIA and wait for them to do it.
Move for
So
approval.
I make a motion that it be approved.
Moved and second. Who, Mr. Cobb made the motion, and who second?
Second.
Mr. Thornton. Now discussion. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay. Item 6 is the, I think you have the resolution in front of you here supporting the Eastern Band Cherokee in the preservation and protection of the Katua Mound in North Carolina. We got information about this. Gail talked to Rosie at the Eastern Band, and then we did further research, and Ms. Callan has come forward with this resolution in support. Do you want to
Yes,
comment?
thank you, Madam Speaker. I would like to make a motion to approve with one amendment to strike the last "be it resolved."
Last, it is further resolved by the council that that will pledge the use of any resources available. Is that the one you want to strike?
Yes, we just don't know the scope of it, so even though this is a resolution and non-binding, I would hate to set up expectations I don't know that we can meet at this point.
Mr.
Second the motion,
Moved in second.
and
Now,
I'd like it to be a co-sponsor if possible.
okay. Did you get Mr. Garvin? Mr. Baker?
And I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor, please.
Mr. Thornton? Okay. Any others want to be added? Mr. Anglin?
There's one right up there, see?
Julie is waving.
She wants to be.
Ms. Coates?
Let's go.
Why not? In my acclamation.
Okay, I've got Kara, Harley, Don, Jack, David, Yule, Juliet, and Bill John. Yes.
Any others? You can add me to that.
And just for clarification purposes, Madam Speaker, does it also somehow need to go get education next Tuesday, or because it goes straight into, if we, assuming we amend the agenda next Tuesday at full council, would it go straight from here to there if we were to amend the agenda?
If the committee wants to do that, yes.
Okay, but we don't need to necessarily make a motion, we would just, at full council?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Is that right, Mr. Henry?
That's correct. The motion would need to be made in full council, but it doesn't need to go through any other.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor of this resolution, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, item 7 is to consider the election law and possible action if necessary. Mr. Henry, do you want to kind of get us organized on that?
Yes, Madam Chairman. As you recall, when we were passed the amendments to all the election laws, we left Section 5 in reserve. Since that time, there's been a number of important activities. First of all was a decision by Judge Bart Fight after a quick consultation between myself, Mr. Cole, the attorney for the Election Commission, and Chief Smith. We decided to put 2 questions to Judge Fight to help clarify the actions as we go forward. Judge Fight was very accommodating to us and literally scheduled the hearing in 1 or 2 days. We showed up, we put these questions to Judge Fight, and Judge Fight made a ruling that it was his intent or understanding that the council would take action on the remand report that the Election Commission filed. And so therefore, he moved the evidentiary hearing that was scheduled for February 5th until such time that the council took some type of action on the remand report. He also made the ruling that until Legislative Act 1408 was fully implemented, that as was the law of the land, would 9 districts would stand until further action. And he also made the ruling that the Constitution did not require 15 separate districts, but it was totally within the purview of the council to create those districts in whatever fashion that the council saw fit. So, with that in mind, on January 25th, I wrote a memorandum to the tribal council, basically outlining 3 actions that, number one, that the council should take some type of action, and gave 3 options: that of approving the 15 districts as is through Legislative Act 1408, and then after which we would have an evidentiary hearing on that. Number 2, adopt the election commission's remand report, or number 3, what I would describe as the pull the plug version, and just say, look, we're just going to go back to 9. Further, yesterday around 4:45. And I did get a heads up from Secretary Knight, but yesterday about 4:45, a memorandum came out authored by David Justice, stating that there were errors were discovered in the districting process, and that because of these errors, that the numbers to the election commission were skewed. Also, the numbers that we discovered or that we used originally were could be in question. The new figures that, according to the methodology used, and I'll just round off these figures, is that when we considered our numbers, we had 107,000 citizens roughly within the jurisdictional boundaries of the Cherokee Nation. When the Election Commission considered the numbers, there was 110,000 within the jurisdiction boundaries. The revised figures in yesterday's memo come to roughly 102,000, with some drastically different numbers in certain counties. I know that my original memorandum of January 25th asked that this council take some type of action. Based on the latest developments, I would recommend that the council further investigate the numbers, the methodology used in those numbers. I've spoken with Mr. Cole, the attorney for the Election Commission. They may decide to introduce a new remand report. I will let him speak to that. But at this point, I do believe that it is necessary that this council revisit the numbers and revisit the methodology to see where we're at on that. So that's where we're at this point, unless Ms. Secretary Knight or Mr. Cole would want to add anything at this point before we take questions.
Ms. Knight?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just to point out a couple of things pursuant to what the report Todd's given you. The number totaling 102,000 or so citizens does not include what we call bad addresses. And so we have taken out unverifiable addresses out of that number. The reason that we feel that that's a bit skewed is because it mostly affects 2 counties. And if you'll notice the difference in the 2 maps, the 2 counties most affected are Delaware County and Rogers County. The reason for that is that we did a series of mail-outs in those 2 counties, and we did not do the same level of mail-outs in other counties. So we got responses on bad addresses from those two counties, more so than we did in the rest of the Cherokee Nation. So that caused those numbers to drop significantly, and the other counties to pretty much remain the same, or, you know, have much less changes, let's say. So the second set of maps that David included in his memo, and it would be the last page of his memo, includes these numbers, is the 110,000 number. That includes all of the bad addresses in the number. So all the bad addresses remain in the 110,000. You'll notice that Delaware and Rogers County are back up to, you know, those slight changes from the 107 that represent growth that we would have expected from the 107 to the 110. And David Justice can explain it in a whole lot of technical detail. If you have any questions of him, he is here to answer those questions between the 107 that you acted on and now this 110, if the Election Commission chooses to use it, that he's provided for you with all the bad addresses included. We have engaged BDK, I always get the initials wrong, BDK, our auditing firm, to audit for us and document the process we're using each time we pull this data to make sure that we do it consistently from here on out. And then secondly, to do some sampling of the data itself and ensure that we have consistency on that point. So they have started right away. We engaged them last week, and they were supposed to start either today or tomorrow on that process. So just wanted to inform you of that as well. David mentions it in his memo.
And you said David is here?
He is here.
Okay. We have Ms. Jordan and Mr. Hoskin. Ms. Jordan?
I think my question is directed to Todd, our legal counsel. Todd, what is your recommendation that the tribal council should do today, if anything?
My recommendation is not to do anything today. The numbers that we have dealt with are in question. The remand report that the Election Commission submitted to the court and in this council, by no fault of the Election Commission, is in question. And for us to take action on numbers that we're not sure of, I think would not be responsible. So at this point, I am asking that the Election Commission revisit those numbers, that we get a better understanding of the methodology, and to see exactly where these numbers are at per district, and within the jurisdiction of the Cherokee Nation.
Then I make a motion that we just table any action on this until we see another report from the Election Commission regarding their numbers, and then place it on the appropriate agenda at that point.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to table. However, we do have a couple of people, if I may, that want to comment. If that's all right with you?
I think the motion to table takes precedent over everything. Is that my
I'm just asking if you
understanding?
want to allow them to speak.
Oh, what the heck? That's what you want to do.
Mr. Hoskin?
Well, I would keep it brief because I agree that we need a table, but I wanted to ask Todd, at some point are the parties going to stipulate what the numbers are, and this is what the court has to live with as far as what the numbers are, because the parties are going to stipulate in terms of the total population, or are we going to be duking it out over that basic fact, or is that the open question at this point?
I don't know. I can't answer your question. I just cannot answer your question until I get a better understanding of where the numbers are and the methodology using. What was the difference between, and how we came from the difference between the 1115 numbers and the 110 and the 102. So I can't answer your question, sir.
Ms. Watts?
Thank you.
Did Mr. Cole, did you have a comment also? Okay.
Madam Chairman, if I could address the
Well,
issues.
Ms. Watts has the floor right now. I just saw you stand, and I wasn't sure.
So before we do table or not table or take any action, I want to clarify some things because I was pretty clear about the data. The data today, given the memo, now reflects what we've known for 6 years, that my district and Councilman Garvin's district are short a person, given the current nine district. The only reason there was data presented differently was because that bad addresses were excluded from that prior data set. So the data was there. It wasn't that the data was wrong that we were given, it was just not complete that we were given. And these numbers are indicative of what we've seen for 3 or 4 years now. It's what the courts ruled on before, the numbers we've been given today. So we either do 15 districts, in my mind, and I guess the courts have ruled that the election commission, which this body should ask to do so there's no further delay, because there's misinterpretation about what does or doesn't needs to be done. We either need to make a motion today and ask them to redistrict based on 15 or 5 or whatever the body chooses to do, or we need to apportion given our 9 so that the voters can feel like they have confidence in the 2011 election and move forward. But the idea that we have bad data is not true. Given that we don't do our own census, given that we don't audit our own Cherokee citizenship, this is the data we choose to live by. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Mr. Cole?
I thought with your permission, I might be able to add something to what Mr. Henry has said. In looking at the decision that Judge Fight has rendered, if you look at that document, what he says is that the present act, the 15 districts, has an infirmity in it. His observation was that because the original apportionment was not done by the commission. To Mr. Todd's benefit, he's been arguing that, well, the commission wasn't in place at that time, and therefore the council had to go act without that. And that's a legal issue that hasn't been decided one way or the other. But having read Judge Fight's decision here, what we're faced to do, unless somebody wants to take this issue in his judgment now in this position forward to the Supreme Court, what I think is we're all facing is that obviously now the commission would have to revisit our apportionment because the numbers are skewed. You know, it was complicated enough before, now it's further complicated, but having said that, that means that we've got to go back and do an apportionment again and submit it back to you all. But the interesting thing is Judge Fight says that what you have to do with that, that is the council has to do with it, you have to put it back on your council agenda. You have to walk through it just like you did with 1408. You know, and I know, in all probability, the chief will probably veto it again. If it's in the same form it was before, you would expect him to do that. And therefore, then we would kick back to the courts again and be back in the court system. What troubles me as attorney for the commission is that we're running out of time to be prepared for your election in 2011. We've got either to deal with 15 districts or we've got to deal with 9. And that's interesting. What he's ruled is that he says that the default jurisdiction is 9 districts now. So that if you didn't do anything at all, we'd have an election in the 9 districts, the original 9 districts. And if we knew that, why, we would be more comfortable in feeling like we're prepared for this 2011 election. But having said that, we're just at a position where if you all decide, and we're all getting to face this timeline for this election next year. We've talked among ourselves, and we think that July, we need to have some closure on this issue by July. And I hardly see that that's probably going to happen with your legislative process, that we probably get in that by that time. But having said that, if you give some consideration at this point in time, that not to entirely abandon the 15 districts, but maybe to delay it till after this 2011 election, that we all might be able to get by without being cramped, and we need to be at our very best when we have this 2011 election. And I don't know that we can have our very best if we're cramped and have a problem with getting it ready instead of 9 districts, 15 districts. So as a practical matter, I just want to point those things out to you all, that we're all faced with these kind of decisions to make. But I feel like the court wanted our best efforts in doing that apportionment, and I think now, because of these numbers we've got, it's not our best effort, and I think we'd have to revisit it. And I'm sure that the judge hasn't been made aware of this. I only got it in my hands just this morning, so I haven't really had a chance to look at it. But the fact, and I think Mrs. Watt's right, that number 102 has been out there a good long while, and why somebody has been ignoring it, I don't know. But having said that, that's my observations now, and we've met this morning, and we've talked about these various things, same things, and I think that's pretty much the census of my committee, is that we're really running against a tight line right now to be able to be prepared for this election next year. So I'm glad to answer any questions you all have, if you have any questions about it.
Appreciate you being here. We're just taking comments because we do have a motion to table, and she was kind enough, because this is an important decision. We have 2 more comments, and then we'll vote. We have Ms. Fishinghawk and Mr.
Thank you.
Baker.
Okay, Lloyd, I got a question for you.
Sure.
This, Todd and I asked from Leland Bertiski here back in, I guess, June 23rd of '08, for the numbers of the whole counties, the registration numbers for everybody that resides in a county. This was before geodata throughout the ones that were boundary, the ones that were on the outside. And then Todd asked for to get an 09, and I haven't got the signed copy. I've got a copy of the one Leela signed. Todd's got a copy of this one. This is your, if you take that, please, this is your 09 registration number. Here's my problem. I have a problem when Leela gives me numbers, and, I've heard numbers about 8 years, so let's talk about Rogers County. 8207 is what Leela has in the whole county before geodata throws any numbers out. And then geodata at one time showed us, which is this little matrix laid out for you. It went down here through bordering counties, like District 4 had a total of 4,070 people thrown out when it was run through geodata. District 5 had 2,380, District 6 didn't have none, District 7 had 1,000, and District 8 had 1,300. So Leela gives us these numbers, and it's the most any district can have to start out with before geodata throws them out, because these are total county totals. So Three Rivers shows 15.5 in 08, it's about the same in 09. And then David Justice comes along, and he throws out 4,000 of it. 4,100 as a matter of fact, according to Justice's numbers. So that takes a 15.5, and we throw out 4,100, so that leaves 11.4. And then like Don Garvin here give up Wagner. And in Wagner there's about 2,700. So we take the 11.4 and we throw out the 2,700, so now we're down to 8,700 in Three Rivers.
Okay.
Okay, and then he also gave some of it up to, I think you, David, didn't you take a zip code or 2? So when it takes from 8,700 and you throw out the zip code, which would be another page where David Justice got it ready, we throw out another 1,400 off of 8,700. Now we got Three Rivers down to 7,300, when originally it started out at 15.5. So basically we threw out half of Three Rivers. So would you make sure that they run these through geodata? So far, David Justice has showed me about 4 or 5 sets of numbers, and I'm starting to think people are using numbers around here like a drunk uses a lamppost for support rather than illumination. So would you please make sure geodata runs them through there? And then I do got another couple of questions for you.
Okay, well, Jody, in due respect, we thought we had gotten those numbers, and we thought there was some truth to them and reliability on them, and so we say they're not. So we're all, I think, victims of that source of information, and I'm not sure we have any control over it.
Well, I'd also like them compared to once you get them to voting. Like my county has 1,800 people vote every election, and I don't think it's an overt citizenly zeal that either county wants to get out and vote, but other counties don't. I think there's going to be a correlation from the number of voters, to the number of citizens. I'd like you to compare it to schools, and keep in mind, when you divide up school money, don't include the ones that lay outside the district, because we got that 2-mile zone. And I think you're going to find some correlations between numbers and money we give out and voting and different things like that. And you just now said you all could possibly you all are ready for a 9-district voting, right?
Well, I made the observation that that's the judge ruling.
Okay.
The judge says that 1408 is infirm, and therefore the default is still the 19. But leaving you all the opportunity now to come back on what we thought was an accurate report that we made to you, that you could act upon, the remand report. Now we're going to have to change that, but you still have before you the process to whether you want to approve that or not approve it.
Okay, so we're at 9, and I got a question for Martha.
Let me just finish one item on this legislation on the new election laws. We need closure on it. You know, we've been here since September of 2008, working on this act to make amendments. We need that in place by our deadline so that we know how we're going to conduct this election. So we need to get closure on it. The one thing about it, there'll always be tweaking on that election laws, and you could stop here at some point in time and get it behind you, and with the right to revisit it later on and make any changes. I don't think you're going to get a perfect product anyway in the eyes of the politicians, but we do need to have it over with too, along with this issue here.
Thank you, Mr. Cole.
Thank you.
Martha, we have a motion to table.
I have a question for Martha.
Martha, this is the last question because we need to move on. Martha?
Martha, can the election commission, we're a year out from filing, anybody wanting to run, not too long away from having an election. What can you all be ready for? What can you tell us, not stretching it, in your certainty, you and Lloyd's and whoever else is on the commission, that you all can be ready for?
Okay, if candidates file for office March 1 year from next month, file for office. We have no election laws in place. We have no districts in place. The only thing I think we could do, and it would really rush us, is to leave it like it was the last election and do the 9 districts. And please, please give us some election laws today or within the next 2 weeks. Those are the 2 things we've got to do. The apportionment may not be correct, but the word apportionment wouldn't even have been here if you all hadn't started talking about new districts. You can just do that every 12 years.
Thank you. The motion is to table, and Ms. Jordan, did you want this table to the next rules? Is that what I understood? That is February the
25th.
February 25th.
I'm going to be guided by what Todd says there.
Madam Chairman, I would request that you table until a meeting until after the remand report, because we really won't be able to act on the remand report until the election commission revisits it. But I'm sure that's going to be real high on their
Any
agenda.
idea how long that will take?
I'd like to talk to David Justice about this letter. As soon as we find comfortable with the input that he has here, we'll have a special meeting. Kind of depends on the weather, but it'll be on our priority list. So I would say within the next 10 days that we'll be making that decision and having some better idea of where he's coming from and whether or not we're going to have an adjustment on these numbers again sometime later on.
Mr. Hoskins?
I just was going to suggest, should we just table it to the next meeting? If the remand report's not out, we'll unfortunately kick it down the road a little bit further.
All minds clear, it is tabled until the next Rules Committee on February 25th. All in favor of tabling signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Roll call. Yes is to table.
Janelle Fulbright?
Yes.
Don Garvin?
No.
Chuck Hoskin Jr.?
Yes.
China Glory Jordan?
Yes.
Chris Soap?
No.
Curtis Snell?
Yes.
David Thornton?
Yes.
Kara Calvin Watts?
No.
Bill England?
No.
Bill John Baker?
Yes.
Jack Baker?
Yes.
Harley Buzzard?
Yes.
Julia Coates?
Yes.
Bradley Cobb?
No.
Joe Crittenden?
Yes.
Jody Fishenhop?
Yes.
Meredith Brayton.
Yes.
We have 12 yes and 5 no.
12 yes, 5 no. Motion carries to table. Mr. Henry, is there any other action in regard to their request to carry the election law forward so they can get started? Or do we need to include that on the next rules agenda?
No, the election law, if you recall, Madam Chairman, passed the last Rules Committee and will be voted at full council on Tuesday. So I would expect that with the compromises that we made with the administration, that after that is passed at full council, that he will sign it and we'll have that done, that portion done.
All right, Mr. Cole, clear?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson? Okay. And then, yes, sir?
Could I ask one question more of Mr. Cole
In regard
to how they're arriving at their numbers in their remand?
Well, we've got a motion to table all of this already on the approved.
Well, but that goes to his report, not the, there's one important point that there are steps that they seem to be missing here that we did. We asked David Justice to take his geocoding ability along those bordering zip codes and tell us what was at large and what was in the district. And I don't believe they have taken it to that steps. And that's what I wanted to ask Mr. Cole.
With all due respect, I thought you meant Mr. Cole. She's posing a question to you.
Especially
Chairman,
coming from the counselor that made the motion to table.
Well,
Mr. Henry?
Robert's Rules of Order, point of order supersedes all other actions and must be addressed. So she's made a point of order, so you have to recognize what the point of order is.
What's your point of order?
So point of order is we've tabled and we've moved on, so if we'd wanted to continue discussion, we wouldn't have tabled it.
Then I'll
so.
just ask it under announcements.
Okay, Mr. Hoskins?
I was just going to ask the chair to extend courtesy to the counselor who allowed all the questioning in the first place, so, but in any case.
Okay, next item is announcements. Next meeting is set for February 25th at 1 o'clock.
And now can I ask my question?
Okay, in an announcement form.
Yes, in an announcement form. I'll make an
Mr. Cole.
announcement. Mr. Cole, would you step up there? In announcement form, I'm hoping that you're going to take into consideration the final step in your process that asks geocoding to tell us of those zip codes that you all are now including entirely in the district. They have the ability apparently to tell us what is at large and what is in the district. And I don't believe that step is being taken now. So I'm assuming in announcement form, I hope you'll do that.
She's announcing she wants you to do that.
All I can assure you and every other member here is that when the commission exercises its responsibilities, it'll do it to the best that we can to be fair and to comply with the Constitution, one Cherokee, one vote. And so it's there's a combination, there's a number of options that we have, and we kind of rely upon the statistician, so, but yes, we'll certainly keep that in mind.
Move we adjourn.
Second.
Any other announcements? Motion to adjourn. All in favor, signify by saying aye. All opposed, same sign.